Are we here to sell art or are we here to sell hot sauce?
Millions of bottles a day.
It's the spice that unites.
Just flick that switch.
And they made the sacred drink.
So many questions.
The fun starts now.
Were you a hot sauce guy at all?
That's a secret.
Okay. You're listening to The Hot Sauce Show, the place to meet hot sauce makers and enthusiasts. Let's jump right in. Hey everyone, welcome to The Hot Sauce Show. My name is Zach. I'm your host. This is part two of this series of episodes we're doing at Cy Brown's estate here in New Iberia, Louisiana. Last week we had Cy on the show, and this week we have the creator of Perique Pepper Sauce and Condiment Company, Matt Nichols, here with me. Matt, thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
And
thanks for meeting me.
Thank you. And the tie-in is Cy Brown is a big part of Perique Pepper Sauce Company and Condiment.
Yeah, he's the director, yeah.
Perfect. And you are the creator of it all. So.
Yeah, I'm kind of, I guess, I limited myself to, I'm the brand creator, but I stock shelves and, I've formulated, most of the initial products, and that's during the great pandemic is when I wrote Cy a letter, and with a glossy print magazine, and that whet his appetite, and we've been working henceforth.
Great. So tell me, what is Perique?
Well, Perique historically I used to be a farmer's advocate and work with a Perique farm in St. James Parish. And Perique is an old time Louisiana fermented tobacco. It's it's a few acres perhaps are grown today, but it's also, Perique is also a proper family name that's only found in Louisiana, and from families that left Louisiana and went to Illinois and East Coast. So it is a formal name. The etymology of the name, it's not really known where it came from. I've suspected that it likely was a Native American word corrupted, because it was the Choctaw Indians, the Chickasaw, that taught the French settlers how to make Perique fermented tobacco. So what I wanted to do was make a very healthy hot sauce, a pepper sauce, using the principles of fermentation and fine blending and other proprietary things, and to make a healthy, really a new sauce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now is there something special with Perique Tobacco? Is that in fermenting it?
Yeah, it's high pressure fermentation in whiskey barrels.
Interesting.
So I got the idea when I was standing under an old barn which blew away during Ida. I went and drove down and it was gone. It was like a century-old barn. Oh. And I was sitting there with my notebook and I'm smelling the Perique tobacco in the air. It smelled like melons. It smelled so sweet. And I wrote down 3 words, and that was Perique pepper sauce. And then I did a very crude drawing of a high-pressure pepper press mill. So that was day one. And that would have been around 1999, 2000. And that journal, I still haven't found it, but I know approximately where it is, but it's somewhere shelved.
Now, so you were a farmer's advocate. Were you a hot sauce guy at all?
Yeah, well, I grew up in New Orleans. It's Tabasco, Crystal, and Louisiana, and and pick a pepper.
And pick a pepper, okay.
Yeah. So that was about the scope of my pepper knowledge, as far as in the culinary sense, until Vietnamese cooking in pho or pho became very popular, and it was popular much earlier in New Orleans East, because in the 70s we moved an entire village of really Vietnamese Catholics to New Orleans, an entire village. And on Chef Menteur Highway, they would cultivate the canals. I don't know if they're planting rice, but the old ladies with hats would actually cultivate like the canals and fish farm, and we would go there for the soup, but the menu was only in Vietnamese, but it had pictures. So we'd say we want that, and so that was when I first tried sriracha. So, but really my knowledge, I guess my love of peppers came from studying ethnobotany at Tulane University. Both Cy and I went to Tulane University. It's one thing we have in common. You know, he's a year or so ahead of me, you know, but, a decade maybe. But I studied capsicum and tobacco and other medicinal plants in relation to indigenous cultures and how they used them as medicine, etc. And I mean, for example, the Maya made the drink of the gods, and that was with mashed chocolate seeds, cacao seeds, chili peppers, I think cornmeal and water, and they made the sacred drink. So I was aware of its significance. I was aware of also the Aztecs burning chili peppers downwind as in warfare.
Really?
So basically my background in it is really, I ate a lot of po' boys and seafood growing up, but it was really academically under the rubric of anthropology.
How fascinating. And then you just needed that smell in that Perique one day that just flicked that switch.
Yeah, just like that.
So that was 20 plus years ago.
Yes.
Wow. And what a fascinating story. What's the first sauce you have here for us to try?
Well, this one right here, the green Perique green pepper sauce. This is it's a blended aged pepper. It's jalapeno and green habanero, lemon juice. Oh well, actually I'll do an order. It's a green jalapeno, green habanero, sugarcane, Louisiana sugarcane vinegar, lemon juice, and salt.
What does sugarcane vinegar taste like?
It's got subtle qualities that really, it's used a lot in Filipino cooking, in Asian cooking, and it's not much used in America.
Did it originate in Vietnam or?
Well, no, wherever sugarcane grew, they made, rum would be made, or alcohol would be made, and then alcohol would get converted to vinegar. So it's just a chemical process. So anywhere where they made molasses, they likely made rum, and that rum often turned to vinegar. You know, that's like a simplistic.
Yeah.
But I'm smelling some good smells, you know?
Yeah. So help me understand. So you have jalapeno pepper mash, and what was the other pepper in there?
Jalapeno and green habanero.
And green habanero. And so that's put together, and then how long does that ferment for?
That's a secret.
Okay.
That's proprietary.
That's awesome. Okay. Let's try it.
Let's do it. Yep.
We got our dipsticks here. This is fun. Oh, a little pipette action. All right.
And some people say that they like the green sauce the best.
Oh,
I've heard that from a few people.
I love it. Yeah, it's so unique and tasty, and you know, it's so different than, I mean, I've tried, I think I can say over 1,000 hot sauces just in the last year, and tastes like nothing I've had before. So just,
It packs a punch.
yeah.
And that's why people say that's the mild, right? And I said, no, that's the medium hot.
Yeah.
Because mild is not hot. Medium hot is still hot.
Right. Yeah, and I can taste the citrus in it and the wild card secret X factor of that fermentation time. Yes. It's like those two peppers are blended in a way that I don't think I'd be able to put a finger on it if you didn't tell me.
Yeah.
I'd go, what pepper is this? This is fantastic.
Good.
Yeah, so I you know, really fascinating. How were you inspired to make that?
Geez, you know, I read a lot and I collect antiquarian books. And you know, and I'm telling you this much, I don't like Kindle. I like to smell a book. You know, I like to, you know, to open up pages that haven't been opened up for a century. So I got inspiration from a lot of old books. My really the only cookbook I ever read was River Road Recipes.
Okay.
And that was about the River Road in New Orleans. I think it was made first in the 1960s or 70s. And that taught me the basics of cooking, you know, of New Orleans and Louisiana style cooking. So a lot of that was my inspiration for making these products.
That's really fascinating. So tell me about the branding here. It's also, I mean, you really nailed it here. Who is she? And
Well, her story is very interesting. But she actually, on her first generation label, she was holding a cigarette. And I remember my daughter was about probably 10 at the time,
okay.
and she looked at the first draft bottles and she says, "Daddy," she goes, "she's smoking." And I said, "Yes, but trust me, she's gonna quit."
She's smoking a very fine tobacco, honey.
She is, but I said she's gonna quit. You wait, she's gonna quit. And at one of our first meetings, board meetings between me and Cy, maybe not one of the first, but the first couple months, he goes, "Well, we're gonna have to take the cigarette out of her hand." And I said, "I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming." You know, so well, I mean, actually, I'll give you a clue in that woman goes back to an old, let's say, a Louisiana politician.
Okay.
Back in the 1800s, and that's an interesting story that we'll save for dinner.
Is she? So she's a real person?
No,
kind of
I call her
fictionalized.
she's Madame Perique is what we call her. She's kind of like the, I've named her Madame Perique, and that being the matriarch of the brand. Yeah.
Got it. So jumping around here. So 1999, you had the idea for all of this. How long was it after that till you started making sauce, and then how long after that till you made a sellable product?
Well, in 2009, at post-Katrina, 4 years after Katrina, for 3.5, I started a company called Nicopolis Spice Company, and I had done the initial formularies and whatever else, and because it just wasn't right, it wasn't the right timing.
For the spice company?
No, yeah, for me personally.
For you, got it.
Or I knew I would kill the idea if I tried to implement it then. And, New Orleans was still licking its wounds. I guess we still are, from, Katrina and losing everything and people losing all their photographs and all their papers and their houses, that it was premature. So 2015 is when I began the first experimentation. And then we launched, well, we didn't launch, we slowly stepped like a turtle and did a Creole handshake dry spice.
And what is a Creole? What is a Creole handshake?
Well, the Creole handshake, like Cy was saying earlier, he used to, an agricultural contract. The old agricultural contracts in Louisiana were done by shaking hands. And, you would shake the farmer's hand and say, "Look, I need X amount, 2 tons of cayenne pepper ready in the fall." And that agricultural handshake, that handshake would ensure, that was as valid as a written notarized contract.
Wow.
And those were the good old days. When, I like to romanticize that, men had honor and women loved men with honor, we just did powders. When I showed my portfolio to Cy Brown, he looked at the label and he goes, Creole Handshake's a powerful, powerful brand. He says, we ought to do a hot sauce.
So you had Creole Handshake as a powder.
2 powders, yeah.
In 2015 is when that started?
That would have been like 2017.
Okay, and then when did Cy Brown get involved?
In 2022.
Okay, so some time had passed.
Yes.
Between selling.
Yeah, and basically the majority of our customers, because I was the distributor, and like I said, I'm a much better brand creator than I am a distributor, but majority of it sold in French Quarter stores. Okay. So like in small grocery stores. So it was kind of like a souvenir from New Orleans, and didn't do high volume sales, so Size helped to shore up the business, and like I said, he's mandated that she quit smoking, and she did.
So did you reach out to him? So many questions. Did you reach out to him because you wanted help with the seasoning, because you wanted a sauce, because you? Well,
but just because in the middle of, by the time the middle of 2022, I was so burned out from the pandemic and wearing masks and 6 feet apart and all this. Not, I mean, that it was really, was it a move of desperation? No, I just said, I need to get one of the big guys in my corner.
And you just had dry rubs in 2022, or had you introduced any of your sauces?
We had 3.
You did have 3. Okay.
We had 3. We had 3 Perique pepper sauces. We had the black label, red label, and green label, and it was kind of like Scotch. I think that in the back of my mind, I was thinking about Scotch, and but it was it was more. But I made them so quickly and formulated them so quickly, and I had them bottled that actually the first generation bottles didn't even really say, like, it just was green, black, and red. And the second generation said hot, extra hot, and medium hot.
So you knew Cy Brown through just research, or how?
Yeah, I knew of him.
You knew of him?
Yeah, I knew of him.
Okay, and then you called him up, you wrote a letter?
I wrote him a letter, and and expecting, hoping, for an answer. And that answer did call. It did come in the form of a call.
And what did you say to him?
I said, Cy who? No. I said, Mr. Brown. It was nice. Thanks for calling me back. And after about 3 or 4 of those, he goes, no more Mr. Brown. Call me Cy. So that's it.
And he, from that point, gave you ideas, and you brought him on as the director now.
Yes.
Okay.
A director, and like I said, I had the idea for a CREOLE handshake pepper sauce, but I was kind of at that level a little bit burned out, from everything. And when he said, that deserves the pepper sauce, I said, well, call it CREOLE handshake hot pepper sauce. Let's keep the nomenclature Caribbean, and he's responsible for that. For this blend. And
so is pepper sauce distinct at all from hot sauce?
Just linguistically.
Just linguistically, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And help me out here, peppers in this one?
It's aged, it's primarily a cayenne based.
And you're not gonna tell me the age.
What's that?
I said you're not gonna tell me the age.
Well.
So it's aged in fermented cayenne.
Yes.
And then I'm getting, what else am I tasting? There's
just a touch of habanero and a touch of garlic and a touch of salt. Yeah. And this is the Perique is different than, like you said, it's different than any sauce you've ever tried. This is much more in line with what Louisianians think of as hot sauce.
Yeah. So did you, when you first met Cy, did you bring your 3 bottles? And
yeah, I brought like a box of like 6 different brands,
Did you send anything to him before that meeting, or?
Oh yeah, I sent him samples.
He's like, I need to make sure this doesn't suck.
Yeah, right. No, but he liked the art, and then he did ask me. He said, "Look," because he's looking at all my labels.
Yeah.
He says, "Are we here to sell art, or are we here to sell hot sauce?" And I said, "Well, I'm an art salesman. I want to do both. I want to do both. We're selling art to sell the sauce."
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and that's something I've talked about so many times on the show here is, you are a great salesman for your product, but eventually you get to a point where 99.99999% of your product is going to be sold without you standing next to it, without someone sampling it. So, to have this on a shelf that looks nice, it looks like $1 million, it looks established. I mean, down to just your shrink here on the tops, and it looks great. It looks like something I want in my kitchen and all that sort of stuff. So there is a lot of value to making something that looks great, and then once again, like I said a million times before, is great looking product,
right,
great tasting product, and that's how people are gonna come back to it.
And that's what my philosophy has always been, is to make the most beautiful label and packaging, to make an equally, if not better, product contained in there, and then it's a win-win situation, because you got both. You can probably sell bad sauce with a beautiful label.
Once at least.
You can probably sell really good sauce with an ugly label. But I wanted to win. I wanted to have a wonderful contents and a beautiful face to the product.
And I've tried many hot sauces, and it is difficult, rare, whatever word you want to use, to find a sauce where the label is fantastic, The sauce is fantastic. I mean, it just all works, and that's just I know 2 thumbs up, but 2 thumbs up. I mean,
Coming from you, that has a lot of weight behind it. Yeah.
well, I
That
appreciate
is inherent value.
it. So, yeah. So, how are you? You know, you have Mastermind Cy Brown with you now, but how else are you getting your product out there? Are you doing markets? Are you briefcase full of hot sauce? Like,
Yeah, actually, I'm just about to cut foam. My bookbinding friend is going to be cutting the foam for my metal, display case.
okay,
And we're getting into Rouse's, which is our biggest local chain. We're actually in a few Mississippi stores. And really, we did like a lot of contemplation and background research and connections to get to this point to where we have everything tidied up. And really, like Cy said, the fun starts now. Well, I'm looking forward to that fun.
Yeah.
But a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
sure. So you think retail is going to be your go-to channel now versus food service, or
We're going to try and do all.
Try to do
In
all.
fact, this weekend we should have our Shopify website up.
wow, great.
It's just that fine tuning and,
Yeah.
sometimes you have to accept a little less than perfection
Sure.
and fine tune it later.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. So what have been some of the biggest challenges you've had in the last several years?
Well, just it's a saturated market. I mean, that's what you always hear from store managers. But this is a market. I mean, this is really. I mean, there's the era of spices and hot sauce, pepper sauce has never been more vibrant and diverse. So on the diversity index, there's makers that they're making it in Alaska. They're making hot sauces. I mean, I don't know how if they can, claim an ancestral line,
Sure.
but I mean, they're making in all 50 states.
Yeah.
And really the glass bottled in my studies, the glass bottled capsicum pepper sauce originated in New Orleans. I mean, or rather South Louisiana. So really South Louisiana, I think kind of gave birth to this great tradition that spread all around the world, and I'm glad to be part of it.
Yeah, and what I love about your sauce, and I hope as many people can try it as possible, is that it is still very clearly Louisiana, New Orleans style hot sauce. But like Cy mentioned last episode, there's new technologies, new techniques, all these things that can add to your process, make it more efficient. I don't know if I want to say taste better, because I still love all of the OGs, the Louisiana, the tobacco. I love all those sauces, but these sauces here really have a X factor that is definitely noticeable. So great work with that.
Well, let's try the extra hot.
Yes, let's do it.
And I'm more of a medium hot kind of guy, so
A little pipette out the orifice reducer.
look at that.
Oh yeah, right in the back of the throat as I suck that in.
It is.
Ooh, and yeah, it's hot and fruity.
It is fruity.
Yeah.
And, again, like I said, we have Louisiana cane vinegar, which is very mellow.
Now is that in all three?
Just in the Perique.
Just in the Perique. Okay.
Yeah. And then we have lemon juice. And, I guess, lemon juice, I guess when I created this was sort of an exotic ingredient.
Sure.
But with all the stuff like you were talking, enumerating, pumpkin spice hot sauces, day one on that. But I think the lemon juice does function as a flavoring agent and a preservative. Yeah.
Yeah, and so
Keeping
the
the
lemon
pH low.
and the lemon juice is in both Periques.
Oh yeah.
Both Periques.
Yeah.
Along with vinegar and all the stuff,
Of course.
which I think certainly adds to that flavor. Well, what's next for you guys?
What's next? We're looking for, like you said, more food services, expanding our food service and our retail wholesale distribution,
And just getting the
and
word
then
out
maybe some fairs or some markets. It's like the whole e-commerce thing is new to me, and I think I know some people make their living just on the e-commerce.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
But we are hoping to, be nationwide and hopefully worldwide, soon in due time. And the startup is the hardest part.
Sure. So what's your take on all these new really hot, super hots coming out and everything? And
I just think it keeps vitality and really kinetics in the whole industry. So
Yeah.
I think like I said, the extra hot Perique is as hot as I want to go.
Yeah.
It just really is.
Yeah. Do you like that one? Is that one too hot for you, or is that right? That's right there.
It's right there.
Yeah.
Like for oysters and stuff, and for gumbo, because you dilute it. But not much hotter than that. Does my palate
tolerate?
Yeah, I think I'm starting to sweat now.
Sweat. Yeah, I can feel a little sweat,
a little bead, right?
little tingle. It's so flavorful, and to me, that's like a perfect amount of heat. Putting that on eggs, and I've had this one before, and I really love it.
Right.
So great job with that.
Well, it's a compliment, and then soon, we'll be coming out with a few more hot sauces.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
Little teaser on that.
Yep.
What's the anything else you can share with those?
We got I think I'm gonna have to task Si with formulating a Cajun handshake hot sauce.
A Cajun, and how is that different than a Creole?
Well, it's gonna be more of a traditional Cajun sauce.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And what makes a Cajun sauce a Cajun sauce?
Well, you got to start with cayenne, but I think we're gonna actually use some principles from the dry spices into the hot sauce.
Interesting.
In addition of the Trinity, addition of some, lesser used spices.
That you typically find in pepper sauces?
Or that you would typically find in dry spices for jambalaya.
Oh, okay. So then kind of turning that into a sauce.
Yeah.
Wow, that sounds really
just for notes.
Yeah.
But it'll be a cayenne base.
A lot of flavor out of that. What's the and I don't think I asked. What's the pepper in the Red Perique?
It is red jalapeno, or red habanero, red cayenne. Again, the formula. It is Louisiana cane vinegar, lemon juice, salt.
That's great. Do you know any other sauces using cane vinegar?
Yeah, in the Caribbean.
Really?
I think Perique Pepper uses cane vinegar. A lot of those small brands from the Antilles, they use cane vinegar because they grow sugarcane. Exactly, and that's. Yeah. So there's a few out there that I know of. Maybe 2 or 3 that I've. A lot of times they'll just call it vinegar, and it will be cane vinegar. So even though it says just vinegar, it happens to be derived from sugarcane.
Yeah. Have you found, with making calls at supermarkets and distributors, have you found any pushback to those places saying, hey, we already have 5 Louisiana hot sauces, the trend's away from vinegar, which I feel like there's a lot of buzz in the industry right now about, we need flavor hot sauces, we need hot sauce that aren't so, hot and vinegary, but the numbers don't lie. I mean, all the big guys are still selling millions of bottles a day.
And the industry's growing, and what used to be uncommon. See, the difference between Si and I, other than just a few years separation at Tulane, he was a few grades ahead of me, is that he would go up to Chicago, whereas I was born in Chicago.
Okay.
And at age 5, my parents moved us down to New Orleans.
Interesting.
So we did the reverse. We might have passed each other.
Pass on the train, yeah.
But up north, just back in the very small select group of people that appreciated hot sauces. Whereas today it's northwest, east, south, everywhere, and there's plenty of room for growth and for brand success.
So it's easy for me because I taste it and I love it, but for someone that hasn't had it yet, how do you pitch them on? Hey, you got to try this.
Well, it's not a hot sauce. It's New Orleans' finest elixir of pepper sauce.
There you go. Okay, that's a great pitch.
Yeah, and then with CREOLE HANDSHAKE, it's the spice that unites.
The spice that unites.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah, fantastic products. I've had all three of these before today, full disclosure. I love all three of them, and I really, really appreciate the time coordinating this previous episode with Cy Brown and with you here, and I can't wait to see where you guys go with this, and the new sauces that come out. I'm super excited for, and yeah, where is the best place for our followers to become your followers and vice versa?
Well, we do have a page on Facebook.
Okay.
And PeriquePeppersauce.com is our website. And in a few days, our Shopify website will be up and running. We're also on Instagram, but like I said, I collect old books, and I'm not really savvy on social media. And
Yeah.
I have to, admit my weaknesses.
Yeah. Well, that's good that you know those, and then you can have people fill in those gaps. So, awesome. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and we'll get together again soon.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Matt.
I really appreciate it.
Likewise. Thank you. Thanks for listening to the Hot Sauce Show. Be sure to follow us here and on socials to stay up to date on future episodes.